All right. We are now live on YouTube, so go ahead.
All right.
Floor is yours.
Well, welcome everyone to the September edition of the Kentucky Monthly Climate Perspective on Drought and Hydrologic Conditions. And we have quite a bit to talk about this month. Um, so go ahead and get started. As always, this webinar series is presented by the Kentucky Climate Center at Western Kentucky University in partnership with the National Integrated Drought Information System and in coordination with the Midwest Drought Early Warning System. The production and delivery of this webinar reflects the contribution of many partners, which includes the Kentucky Division of Water, the Kentucky Climate Center at Western Kentucky University, and the UK Ag Weather Center. Our next webinar is going to be on October 3rd at 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 1 p.m. Central Daylight Time. And this webinar is being recorded and will be available for viewing later on the YouTube channel, and is also being live streamed on the Kentucky Climate Center's YouTube channel. And the picture here in the background is from the Boone County Mesonet, and it's a familiar sight around the state with the brown, crispy lawns. As always, we're going to start with the recent conditions, and then talk about impacts, outlooks, then wrap things up with a summary and questions and discussions. The pictures here on the left are both from the Union County Mesonet. One is from August 4th, and one is from September 4th, and you can see there's quite a bit of browning from the in a month there. So again, something that's been very common. So precipitation over the last 7 days. We did have some scattered storms over the weekend. If you were at or trying to watch the UK football game, you know all about that. They were scattered in nature. Southern Kentucky, especially like the Lake Cumberland area, were the big winners. You see some a little bit more widespread down in Southern Kentucky. And we did have some places, the Mesonet in Southern Fayette County got 2.5 inches of rain, but Frankfort got less than a half inch of rain. So very scattered holes all over the place. Well, not what we need to end drought conditions. We need more of a widespread, steady rain. But if you go out Western Kentucky and even west of Lexington, west of 75, you can see that a lot of places got very little to no rain. Let's see, Bullitt County, just a trace down, Logan, Todd, Trigg County, all that area, little to no rain. So there were some places that got some much needed rain, but a lot of places did not. If you go to 14 days, the map does not change at all. Really, the week before that was dry. I think the state average for the previous week was just a couple tenths of an inch of rain, average for the whole state. So pretty dry week. If we got to the 30-day, you can see again the eastern Kentucky, especially southeastern quarter of the state, has had some pretty good, I shouldn't say good, decent rains. Average, close to average rain. You can see what county is that? Knox County, 4.3 inches of rain. I believe that's Jackson County up there with almost 4 inches of rain. Also Morgan County, 4 inches of rain. But then you go north and west, you get a lot less. Campbell County, just an inch of rain. Also over in Lawrence County, the Ashland area, been pretty dry, only an inch of rain or inch and a half of rain. And you start going west, Bullitt County, just a half inch of rain. Grayson County, 0.7 inches of rain. Muhlenberg County, 0.35 inches. And then you look at Portree County, 0 inches of rain. No rain recorded at that Mesonet station in the past 30 days. that's not good, especially in August. Um, so it's been very dry, especially in the west of Interstate 75, and really north of 64, with the exception of a few spotty areas. If we go out to 60 days, again, you can see southern Kentucky, southeastern Kentucky has been really kind of hogging all the rain. You can see Pulaski County, uh, over 11 inches of rain in 60 days is a pretty good amount of precipitation. Um, um, Marion County, almost 11 inches. Breckenridge County, almost 10 inches. Then you go up in northern Kentucky, again, Owen County, less than 5 inches of rain. Campbell County, 3.5 inches of rain. Over towards Lawrence County, 3.5 inches of rain. Also, bullseye down there, Mercer County, 4.3 inches of rain. And again, Western Kentucky, you're looking at inches of rain. And then a few spotty places like Ballard County. They got one big thunderstorm that sat right over the Mesonet station, got 9.48 inches of rain. So again, normal. You get normal convective thunderstorms. Somebody gets it, and then down the street they don't get anything. So, but more widespread precipitation, still convective, but a little more widespread across southern, southeastern Kentucky. They've been the big winners so far over the past 60 days. We go out to 90 days. Again, you see a lot of places doing a lot better in the rain department. Um, really across the southern half of the state. Again, if you go up northern Kentucky, Campbell County, 4.5 inches of rain over 90 days. That bullseye down Mercer County, 5.28 inches of rain. Lawrence County, 6.23 inches of rain. And then Fulton County on the western Kentucky, 6.8 inches of rain. So definitely some areas that have been dry all summer long. And if we extended this out to 120 days, you'd see some big numbers. May was an extremely wet month, and which we'll kind of talk about later about how important that was. Um, and then we got into the rest of the summer, and for some places, it's been a fairly decent summer up until August. We had Beryl come through in July that brought some precipitation, really more so up in Illinois and Indiana, but some places in kind of west central Kentucky also got some really beneficial rains for that. Um, really, we had a late July where we just had mesoscale convective thunderstorm after mesoscale convective thunderstorm come through, and really brought a lot of the state some much needed rain. But outside of those couple events, it's been kind of spotty. And while southern Kentucky has picked up more of that rain, places like I said, where you see those holes just haven't. And so outside of those couple big events, they've been really dry and hurting. So now these maps are showing the percent of normal. So you can see, and it kind of shows that of the precipitation in eastern Kentucky over the past 30 days. Um, so like I said, you see a few places are above normal for that time for this past 30 days. But those are kind of just the lucky people. If you go look at Western Kentucky, it's just bright red. It just shows how far below normal they have been over the past 30 days. Really all the way up into the Louisville area. If you look over to the 60 day, some of those places that are bright red are blue and green. So the 60 day, even including how dry the past 30 days, they're still above normal in the 60 days. So just kind of it kind of shows just how wet some of those places were in July. Right there from Union County stretching through Grayson County. Um, kind of along the Western Kentucky Parkway and part of it, and then down into Lake Cumberland area. And at the same time, you can see in the 60-day, northern Kentucky, northeastern Kentucky, and then also the purchased area have been dry even over the past days. And if you go down to the 90 days again, um, June was fairly dry, except for the beginning of it. So again, you see the warm colors kind of dominating again, with just a few areas again that from Union County down through towards Bowling Green, and then again out towards the Lake Cumberland area were wetter. So looking at August as a whole, the state averaged 2.29 inches of rain, which is 1.37 inches below normal, and it was the 17th driest August on record. And if you look at just the Western Climatic Division, that area just averaged 1.23 inches rain for the whole month of August, which is almost 2 inches below normal and the ninth driest August on record. And since we are in September, we are in climatological fall now. So we can kind of look back at the summer. And for the summer, which is June through August, the state averaged just over 11 inches of precipitation, which is 1.18 inches below normal, and the 42nd driest on record. So on a whole, the summer wasn't too dry, but it was inconsistent precipitation. We got lots of rain all at once, and then followed by long stretches of dry period. And if you didn't get in on one of those big pockets of rain, or just didn't get as much, it really put you in a hole. And we'll see some talk about that more here in a minute. Um, Temperatures. For the most part, August was close to average. We were 10 degrees above normal. We averaged 75.9 degrees. In reality, it wasn't very normal. Either it was very hot or it was well below normal. We had a couple of really uh big cold fronts come through, and had some really nice seasonable weather. And we had some periods where we had 100 degrees and some spots. So but it all averages out. Looking at low temperatures, southeastern Kentucky was actually a little below normal for the month, for low temperatures. But for high temperatures, basically the eastern two-thirds of the state was just a little above normal. But in the end, like I said, we just kind of ended up just above normal for the month. It was the 37th warmest August on record. And again, if we look at the summer as a whole, we were about 1.2 degrees above normal, which made it the 29th warmest summer on record. Looking at stream flows, current stream flows, overall not looking too bad. Again, we had some pretty good rains over the weekend in southeastern Kentucky, which puts water into the headwaters of the Cumberland River, the Kentucky River, the Leviza Fork. So that kind of helps some of the main stem rivers look a little better than they could have been if they hadn't had that rain. But you do see some orange spots up in the Greenup County area. Also, I believe that's Cynthiana. That's the South Fork of the Licking River. Um, Also down the Barron River down there at Bowling Green, Rolling Fork, Beach Fork area, and Bardstown. So there's a few spots starting to show up. Also that red dot there at Greenup County, that is the Ohio River. When again, something more we'll talk about, but the Ohio River has been low all summer, and it continues to be low and getting lower. If we look at 28-day average, you can see a little bit more orange, especially up in northern and northeastern Kentucky, where it has been drier. Also down in Pike County and a few other spots scattered across the state. But all in all, stream flows not the biggest concern at the moment. Soil moisture. The northern half of the state is very dry. So the soil is very dry, and I'm actually surprised that we're not seeing more, not picking up on more red out in this area. But then again, that was an area. While it's been dry the past 30 days, if you remember, the past 60, 90 days, it has been a lot wetter. So, um, that is still some soil moisture holding down the fort there. But yeah, if you go out to the purchase area, up along the Ohio River, up through the bluegrass and into northeastern Kentucky, the soils are very dry right now. And just taking a look at some of the mesonet stations, these are all 3-month graphs. Starting up left, top left is Warren County. And you can see again, starting off in June, starting off really good, dried out during June, and then you could see all through July into August, lots of rain events in the Bowling Green area, and it really kept that soil moisture in good shape. And then we went through August, it started to slide down. They got one rain event, and now it's really getting low. Um, the next one over is Fulton County, and a little bit different weather pattern out in Fulton County. Very wet June, first half of July. You can see all those rain events, and then it's just they really haven't gotten rain. They got one rain event there late July, but not much. And again, soil moisture you can just see just dropping off the table as we went through August, and um, resulting in some really dry conditions out there now. Pulaski County, like I said, down in Lake Cumberland area, you can see again the dry June, and then they have gotten some rain events in the first half of July, but really the end of July into beginning of August, you can see all those rain events have really brought soil moisture levels up, and they have dropped, but not to the degree into other places. And again, the beginning of September, they got another big rain event. You can see that spike. So they're southern Kentucky down Lake Cumberland area, not in bad shape. Then looking at Fayette County, and this is the soil moisture site up at Spindletop, in northern Fayette County. Again, starting June in great shape. June into the first half of July was very dry and bluegrass. You see those soil moisture levels getting very low. Late second half of July, we had, like I said, we had that big event with multiple events with multiple MCSs coming through. See soil moisture recovered some, looking like we were going to be okay, and then we just kind of started trying off. They did get in on that rain event at the end of the month, so the soil moisture's come up a little bit there. So, but that was again that was spotty. You go up the road to Georgetown, we didn't get nearly that much rain. So again, that spottiness of it. If you got the rain, it's probably helped things out a little bit. If you didn't, your soil is going to be pretty dry right now. All right, looking at the U.S. Drought Monitor, see a lot of color on there. It hasn't just been dry here; it's been dry across a lot of the country, especially over the past month or so. If you look just to our northeast, you can see this big old blob of red over West Virginia and southeastern Ohio. We have D3 extreme drought and even some D4 exceptional drought up there. In fact, I'm not sure about West Virginia, but this is the first time that Ohio has ever had D4 in the 25 years of the U.S. Drought Monitor. So some historic drought going on just outside of our border, and that's been creeping towards us. So, and if you look down south of us, also Tennessee, and down into Mississippi and Alabama has also been dealing with drought. So we've been kind of sandwiched in between, and it's been creeping into our area. You can kind of see that's where those storms in July really helped out. They kind of cut down through Illinois and Indiana and across the state. So, and missing these two areas. So if it wasn't for that storm system, we might be sitting in the exact same spot they are right now. Um, so zooming in on Kentucky, again, you can see we have moderate drought out in the western part of the state. We have moderate drought up in northern Kentucky. We have moderate drought in that little bullseye there where I was talking about Mercer County, Boyle County. Um, those are areas that just didn't kind of missed out on some of those bigger rain events or didn't get as much. And as a result, they're the first ones to drop into drought. We also do have a little. We also have D1 out in northeastern Kentucky and even a little D2 severe drought that's kind of bled over into Lawrence and Boyd County. And then a lot of abnormally dry conditions across northern west central Kentucky. Um, really, and then just southeastern quarter of the state is still doing good for now. There, yeah, but we've been dry, and I would expect this map to get more colorful as we go on through the next few weeks. Unfortunately. And looking at the change map, this is changes over the past 4 weeks. You can see um, just lots and lots of the yellows and oranges. Those are all showing places that have degraded. Um, so we have had a little bit of improvement in central Kentucky where we did have that rain. That would have been in the that would have been at the end of July there. So to where we had improvements. But you can see all around, Ohio, Indiana, West Virginia, down to Tennessee and stuff. You can see just how they've also been getting drier. And again, zooming in on Kentucky, you can see areas 1 and 2 category degradations. The areas in gray are areas that were abnormally dry, improved, and now have come back to abnormally dry or D1. And just one little area there where it has rained and they haven't quite gotten dry enough yet to go back. So for now, so hopefully we get some more rain and they can stay that way, but things aren't looking good. So this is looking like we are going to have our third year of fall drought. So it's kind of becoming a repetitive thing. And if you look at these, the top left is the average precipitation anomaly for the entire state. So you can see there's quite a few red bars on there. Just a little over half of the months since January 2022 have been below normal. And you can see the pattern. You can see we had a couple dry months in spring of 22, very wet July. Part of that is because of the flooding rains in eastern Kentucky. Then we had September, October, November, December, all dry. We had a reprieve beginning in 23, had a little bit of a dry spring, had a wet summer, and then back into the drought. For the fall of 23, we had a wet January, and then it went right back to dry, and it was looking pretty bad. Having basically going back from to the fall, basically where we are right now, in 2023, having dry month after dry month, and then having it again in the spring is a bad thing. And then May hit, and May was an extremely wet month for the state, and that really dug us out of the hole and kind of replenished our soil moistures completely and put us in decent shape going into the summer. Had we not had that, we would be in a very significant drought right now. And then again, you see June in there as well, providing some, or no, sorry, that's July right there, providing us some rain, kind of dividing up that dry June, that dry August. And then the other two maps, one's just for the Western climatic division, and the other one's for the bluegrass, just kind of showing some of the variation between climatic divisions. Western Kentucky, been a little bit more extreme. They've had drier. Their months have been drier, but their wet months have been a little wetter. So a little more extreme out there than compared to the bluegrass. But yeah, and the one interesting thing of all three of these falls so far for this year is we haven't had any tropical systems come up through the Ohio Valley. We did have Beryl. That was really it more in the summer, and for the most part missed a lot of Kentucky. But typically we typically have a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot, but we typically have at least one tropical system come up here in the fall. And they provide us with widespread precipitation, which typically you don't get a lot of this time of year. You get more of the convective summertime thunderstorms. You get a lot of heavy rain all at once, again, it doesn't hit everybody. Some people get lucky, some people don't. So it's something. Excuse me. It's something that we've been looking at. I was at a meeting a couple weeks ago and talking with Ohio and Illinois state climatologists about it, and it's something that they've been noticing too, and it's probably something that's going to become a grad student's thesis to look at this and just kind of see how important tropical systems are to the Ohio Valley in the fall and preventing drought. But there's still time left this fall. Maybe we can still get one. The tropics were supposed to be just crazy active this year, and they have been scary quiet instead. There may be some development coming in the next couple of weeks. Maybe we'll see. This is supposed to, this September's kind of the peak of hurricane season. So, obviously we don't want to see the Gulf Coast get wiped out, but it would be nice to have a non-destructive large storm come up and give us some beneficial rain as well. Excuse me. I've been sick all week, so I'm still recovering, and hopefully I don't lose my voice. So this map, this is a map, or this is graph that Stu Foster, the state climatologist that retired a couple years ago, he liked to show and talk about. If you look at the past 15, 20 years, we have been extraordinarily wet. Minus a few quick hitting short droughts. We've just been an historically wet period, and you can really trace it back all the way to the early 70s. You see, there's kind of been a switch that got hit, but we did have a droughty area back in the 80s and 90s. Um, that we did have, we had some pretty significant droughts: 83, 88, 99. Um, but we kind of, like I said, we've had some quick hitting droughts, but wiped out by all the high precipitation outside of it. Now, some of this is caused by climate change. Higher temperatures equal higher humidity, equal heavy rain. But at the same time, a lot of that rain's been falling in very heavy, short periods. So we get these periods where we get a very wet couple months, and then we get a couple dry months. And that's been the trend in the past 2, 3 years, especially. So the question is this a new pattern change? Are we getting into another dry period? Or is this just another blip? And it's something we won't know for a few more years, but hopefully it's just a blip. I dealing with drought, I kind of like the wetter periods, but it's just something to think about. Going on to storm reports, no surprise, most of the storm reports are in the southern eastern part of the state. A lot of wind damage from thunderstorms, a few hail reports, a couple flooding reports, but for the most part, not a super active months, but not a calm one either. As like I said, we have had some decent thunderstorms roll through the months of August. They just weren't widespread. So looking at ag impacts, ag has been a really, it's becoming a issue, especially for farmers who planted their crops late. Like I said, we had a very wet May, so some farmers were able to get their crop their corn and their first or their full summer soybeans in early, and those have done good, especially the corn. The soybeans had some issues because it was too wet. Um, but the later replanted soybeans or late planted soybeans and corn, and also your double crop soybeans, really in a lot of areas are starting to really have problems. It's yeah, the corn that was planted on time or early kind of finished up before it got dry in most places. Now, Central Kentucky, different story, but Western Kentucky, where the majority of the corn is, probably going to have some good yields still for the ones that was planted on time. This dry weather though has been hitting the late planted corn a lot. Um, so and also pollination. That's always critical with corn as well. Whether if you were hot and dry when your corn is pollinating, you're not going to have as great yields. But all in all, it's kind of going to be probably going to be a mixed bag for corn this year. Soybeans is probably going to be a little rougher. The bigger, I guess the bigger concern right now is pastures. Um, this is our third fall drought in a row. Uh, Pastures just haven't had, they need recovery time from each drought, and they haven't been getting it, so they just keep getting hammered. And also, farmers are playing catch up. Their not their corn, sorry, their hay reserves were low. They're hoping for a wet year the next year to kind of stock back up, and they get another dry fall, and then they get another dry fall. So hay reserves are really depleted. Um, I know the one farmer in Mercer County this year didn't even get half their normal hay cuttings this year. Add into the fact that now you have pastures that are dried out and we're already hurting, and now getting another drought. We're getting farmers already feeding hay well ahead of time, several months ahead of time, and their hay inventories are already low. So it's a bad thing to get into, bad situation. Um, Matt told me that there is talk about maybe starting to have some sell-offs. Excuse me, especially if some of the older cattle that aren't producing much anymore that ease some of the pressure on the hay supplies in the pasture. So it's something that we're going to have to look into or keep an eye on. Also, this may be the third year we have low flow on the Mississippi. Now, over half the flow in the Mississippi comes from the Ohio. So, and with the Ohio being low, like we showed the Ohio, West Virginia, the headwaters of the Ohio are in really bad drought this year. Now, really, the rest of the watershed is also now getting into drought. So we're expecting low flows on the Ohio, which is going to translate into lower flows on the Mississippi. So they haven't reached the levels that we've seen the past 2 years yet, but it's something that's going to be need to be watched out for. And that's just if they do get to the point where shipping is impacting, that's just another impact on farmers because that's how a lot of the grain is moved. So it makes it harder to sell your product, on top of already having all the drought issues as well. So another thing to keep an eye on. And these are from the Fulton County Extension Agent. You can see some exposed shoreline there on the Mississippi River, and then just some fields. You can see how dry they are looking. Um, Definitely some impacted yields there. Um, and so we've been expecting and waiting for La Nina. It's been a little slow to spin up. They were expecting us to already back in the spring, early summer, they were expecting us already to be in La Nina. We haven't got there yet. We're still neutral, but they are still expecting us to have a La Nina winter this year, which wouldn't be a bad thing for us. Typically, La Nina winters are wetter for the Ohio Valley, so but they also then La Nina also typically encourages more hurricane development, which might be part of the reason the late development might be part of the reason why we're not seeing the amount of tropical activities than we were expecting. But again, yeah, we would definitely welcome a wet winter. So fingers crossed. So this is the quantitative precipitation outlook or forecast. This is basically showing how much rain is expected over the next 7 days. And you can see not much for our area. A tenth, maybe a quarter inch, coming with a cold front that is coming through tomorrow. So maybe some showers, but this is not going to be anything even close related to a drought buster. You can see all the moisture is being trapped down there on the Gulf Coast. So places like New Orleans and Florida are going to be getting some significant precipitation, but really no moisture other than up in like New York. Really the rest of the US is going to be pretty dry. So your 6 to 10 day outlooks. You see we are expecting well in the 6 to 10 day outlook, we're actually looking at near normal conditions temperature wise, with below normal temperatures to our south and above normal temperatures to our north and west. And that's again associated with that cold front that's going to be a really strong cold front for this time of year. It's going to be sinking all the way down to the Gulf Coast. Um, but cooler temperatures also mean drier temperatures, or drier weather. And you can see that really pretty strong in the next 6 to 10 days that we are going to have below normal precipitation. And you can see all that precipitation trapped there south of the front down the Gulf Coast in Florida. So kind of similar to what we had last year. It was cool and that kind of we had cool dry air dominate. And while cool air is great for preventing or lowering evaporation and ET, um, you actually have to have soil moisture in place for it to help. So when when your ground's already dry, the cooler weather doesn't really help as much. I guess it's better than baking in the sun and heat, but it's not just going to magically solve things without some precipitation. Looking at 8 to 14 days, little higher confidence um, that will have above normal temperatures. We are getting into mid-September, so maybe hopefully not as hot as we have seen. Also, um, still higher than normal confidence that we'll be have below normal precipitation as well. They're not as high as the 6 to 10 day, but looking like a drier. We're going to stay with the dry conditions for probably the next couple weeks. Looking at the monthly outlook for September, looking at equal temperatures, temperature wise, you can see they're expecting the heat to be down in Florida and out in the Rockies, with below normal temperatures kind of in the mid Atlantic. So we're kind of sandwiched in between that. So we could go either way, or we could just stay normal. Precipitation wise, they actually have parts of Kentucky and a slightly higher than normal chance for above normal precipitations. So hopefully that means that the second half of September is going to be wet. With I'm looking at the first half of September being dry. Fingers crossed. That would be a welcome change. But you can see up the Great Lakes, Northern Plains, expecting drier than normal conditions for September. And then the seasonal outlook, this would be September through November. Um, some slight confidence for warmer than normal temperatures. Um, and then looking at precipitation, kind of no real good strong signal for our area. Um, Above normal precipitation on the Atlantic coastline, and then the desert southwest into the southern plains with below normal precipitation. So we're kind of sandwiched in between that again. So hopefully that moisture from the Atlantic comes westward. Looking out the drought outlook, you can see drought development is likely for along the Ohio River, and you can probably expand that southward some for us. But just yeah, expecting more drought development with not surprising for considering that we're not expecting much in the way of precipitation over the next couple of weeks. Significant fire potential outlook. For September, we are we are not in that. You can see Ohio, parts of Ohio, West Virginia, where that, and then also down in Western Tennessee and into the Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas. Those were the two core areas of drought are right now. So that's where the fire potential is. But that expands into all of Kentucky for October. And that's really the beginning of our fire season as well. That's when we start seeing leaf drops. So once the leaves start to drop, is when we really see it in wildfires in the forested areas. Um, Another issue, which we've already seen a couple, and it's going to be something that we see a lot more of going forward, is combine fires when harvesting. Um, the fields are just super dry, and just one spark from the combine or any type of equipment can start a field fire and kind of insult the injury. You already have reduced yields from drought, and then your whole crop goes up in flames while you're trying to harvest it. So if you are harvesting, make sure that you have fire extinguishers and ready to use, and kind of keeping an eye on things so you can kind of, if you see something, you can put it out before it gets out of hand. And that fire potential is going to extend. Looks like they're expecting it to extend into November as well. So something um, not surprising with how dry it is going in the fall fire season to see us in the red category. Just another plug. I've been doing this since Matt's launched this as his the UK Ag Weather Center's weather alert. Um, it's a good app, and I think we're going to be adding more stuff to it in the future. So, but it gives you alerts, it gives you forecast and and also stuff for agriculture. This is the iOS app. They do have it on Android too, but I don't have the link on here. But you can search for it and on Android as well. So in summary, August was a dry month. And temperatures were about normal, but really it was kind of up and down. It just averaged out. Um, the dry weather has led to rapidly developing drought conditions. Drought conditions are really resulting in agriculture impacts, including corn and soybean losses, poor pasture health, below normal hay production, and early hay feeding. We're still waiting for La Nina. It's still supposedly coming, and hope and should be getting here sometime this fall. Um, and the Climate Prediction Center is forecasting for below normal precipitation to continue for at least the next 2 weeks. Fingers crossed that the second half of September maybe is wetter. And we do have an elevated fire potential this fall in terms of wildfires and combine fires. So again, our next webinar is going to be October 3rd at 2 p.m., 1 p.m. Central. If you have any questions before then, or anytime really, you can reach out to Jerry Brodsky at the Western Kentucky Climate Center, um, Matt Dixon at the UK Ag Weather Center, or myself at the Division of Water. And especially since we're in drought, please, if you have drought impacts, please go to the impact reporter. It's part of the National Seymour um, uh, reporter. So it gets reports from all over the country, and it's really helpful in helping try and determine how severe drought is and where it's at. So really would appreciate if you use that report impacts. So that is on. We'll open up the questions, and I see there's some in the chat. Oh, and Steve Call from the Division of Forestry pointed out we do have a number of burn bans in place. Let's see here: Ballard, Livingston, Barron, Logan, the city of Benton, in Marshall County, Crittenden County, Morgan County, Edmonson County, Owen County, Fulton County, Shelby County, Harrison County, Simpson County, the city of Harlan, Todd, Henderson, Trimble, Henry, Union, Hickman, and Warren counties. So and I'm sure there'll be some more added to that as we go through the next couple weeks. So please be careful if you're doing anything outside of a fire. Don't now is not the time to be burning leaves or anything else right now. Um, so thank you for that, Steve. Um, Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Chip, just a quick comment. One, I'm happy to report I have a student now looking into the hurricane impacts question. So, uh,
Perfect.
yeah, we'll pass along those results as they become available. And also, just a comment about the summer temperatures. I was kind of surprised to see we were so much above normal. That I've only been back here for a couple of summers, but I thought they were fairly cool compared to what I expected. So I was a little surprised to see just how warm it was.
It's the low temperatures. Yeah, I agree. The high temperatures weren't anything crazy this year, but it's those low temperatures. They're just with the humidity, it just doesn't. It's just not cooling off as much at night, and that kind of shifts that whole average up. And that's something we've seen the past couple of years.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm also glad to see that you showed Stu's precip plot. That hasn't changed over the last couple of years. We've come back down to closer to average, but we had an extremely wet period there for a while, and like you pointed out, it's been quite a few years since we've had an extreme drought or a long-term drought. Um, and then you look at 1950, and you look at 1930 or 2030, and I hope we don't see those anytime soon.
Yeah, I would prefer we not go back to the 30s and 50s. Like I said, I am perfectly fine with the past 15 years, and
I have a question. This is Kevin Jeffries from Oldham County.
yes.
Yeah, what's the status on? Have you added any Messenet stations the last few months, or what's the outlook on adding any additional stations?
Jerry, I'll give that to
Right.
you.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. Where we've got several stations in the queue. We're working on Clay County is nearly complete. One in
Mhm.
Clay County, and we've got another one in Greene County that's on its way, and several more in the queue, which I'll keep secret until they're in the ground. But we do have a lineup
Okay,
in the queue, and more to come, hopefully in the spring, for sure.
okay. How many do we have now total in the network?
Well, we've got some research ones out there, but operationally, I think we have about 79 right now.
Okay, thank you all.
All right. Anybody else have any questions?
Chip, you just have to wonder about the La Nina coming up if it's actually going to follow through. But you look at the last couple of years. Now, last year was El Nino, but before that, we had several years, I think 3 years of consecutive La Nina years, and that typically leads to wetter conditions here in Kentucky, at least during the winter months. And for the most part, we saw that, and I guess we have to hope for that again
Yeah,
this winter.
that fingers crossed, or if maybe, and fingers crossed that maybe the Gulf finally starts throwing some storms up this way.
Yeah, it's interesting when you look at the hurricane forecast. I mean, they were forecasting an above average year, and boy, you look at it right now, and it's incredibly quiet, especially
Mhm.
for September.
All right. Guess we'll call it a day, and we'll see everybody back here next month.
Thank you
Yeah,
again.
thank you all.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chip.
Yep. Now, Matt and Jerry, I'll see you in a few more minutes.
Yep, sounds good. See you
All
soon.
right. Bye.